tribal membership is environmental concerns. It's a smarter way to go. Water and sewer hookup with the City of Polson. We don't want to do a drain field. We don't want to have that impact on the environment. We know as tribal members that you care about the land too. You care about the water. We want a clean lake, we want a clean river, okay? We want clean water. That's another overriding concern that I know you share as well, or else you wouldn't be in the position you're in. So I just wanted to add that note. I think all the other reasons were very valid, and I think we've demonstrated a history of working with the City of Polson through the PILT money, and I know for a fact, and having served on tribal council myself, that many residents, non-Indian residents, were not aware of the PILT money that we have worked out in arrangement, even prior to lease, of course, since the 90s. And that's something we did voluntarily. So I want that to really make everyone aware that we have actively partnered with the City of Polson. This is not a free ride. We're aware that you guys have a city to run, and we're willing to be part of that. We want to continue to do so. And as Len mentioned, or Dan mentioned, this is a new casino, okay? We're not focused on being a family-friendly destination for tourists and whoever else, business meetings and things of that nature. So we're not trying to expand gaming per se. All we're trying to do is move it to a new location, and that way having the location on the lake being to what it was designed to be in the beginning. Because to be honest with you, having been involved with that, we've had to shoehorn that property into trying to be a casino when it was never meant to be used in that manner. So there are some insufficiencies there, and I'm sure any of you that have been there know what I'm talking about in terms of the smoke and just the atmosphere is just not conducive to a proper gaming environment. So in any case, I appreciate your time, and not much. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Afruzat Dukui, and Husukukuk in Yasamiki. Chikate Kapi Keshwines. Hello, my name is Francine Dukui, and I'm happy to be glad to be here.
Can you speak up, please?
And, only time I speak up is when I'm mad. So, and I hope you guys listen to us with your hearts, because we speak from our hearts. And the native language, first language from we all speak with our hearts. And when this project first came to the board, that was one of my concerns, was the traffic. I was raised in Elmo, and I live in Cadillac. And so when I go visit home, my concern all the time is, don't let there be anybody turning off to the KO campground, because I'm not sure if the person behind will stop or somebody will come flying around. So that was my concern, and we addressed it to my liking, that we will try to fix it. So I want you guys to understand, we're just not all of us, or we did our due diligence before we brought it here. And so I want you guys to understand. And I'm a board member on SMKD.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gracie.
Okay. This time,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the annexation with a few contingencies. The contingencies would be that just everything that I think I've heard tonight. So the concerns that I have heard, the contingencies would be that we cannot open up the doors of the casino until the traffic has been addressed. Also, I'm still concerned, I haven't seen the physical numbers for sewer capacity crossing the bridge, so as long as we can have an easement to create those capacities that are needed to cross the bridge when that time comes. We need to have that easement in place before this project goes in. So the roads, the easement for the bridge to get the sewer capacity and water capacity. And also, I liked what I hear about moving the gaming from Kootenai out there, and I really hope that's what it is, so that would also be one of my contingencies, that we annex that in with that as the intent. So moving gaming, crossing the bridge with the easement there, and the road access needs to be completed before we open the doors to that, and also that there's an agreeable PILT agreement before those doors open as well. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the annexation with those contingencies.
I have a motion from Isabel. Do I have a second on that motion? Motion's been done. Okay. I'm looking for a motion to approve or deny Resolution 2022 to be determined, a resolution of annexation by petition of a contiguous government. So moved. Okay.
Second.
So I have a motion from Moll, a second from Pardini. Is there any commission discussion now?
I just have a question about all the dates and everything. Is this, because it's a resolution for 2023, but it was started in 2022, and I see the different dates kind of in and out of there. So is that gonna be something that's gonna be streamlined as all of the same date, or are we gonna keep the original 2022?
No, good question, Commissioner Ruggles. You have it as a resolution of 2023. It was originally tabled in 2022. However, in conversation with City Attorney Mickey, he really felt like that from a procedural standpoint, it should just be a motion. And because of that, we relabeled it as a 2023.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
It did, thank you.
So on that motion, though, I did say 2022, is that correct? So I need to modify, I said 2022. I thought maybe that's why you were asking.
No, just
Okay.
reading.
Yep, perfect. Okay. What else do we have for some commission discussion?
I think, in regards to Tony's contingency concerns, I think they're super valid. I think, I may be mistaken, this is what I think, that we're dealing with several governmental agencies, and we really can't say what DOT will do, what the capacity, what if they come back and say that the bridge is substandard. I mean, those are things that we're gonna have to deal with in good faith. And I personally feel that we can do that. We can work forward with this annexation and work with the different government agencies in good faith and move forward for this to happen. I've thought about this a lot. I've thought about it walking around my neighborhood, and there's many, many nights in my neighborhood when I wish we could drop that glass dome. And we wouldn't have more growth in Polson, we wouldn't have more growth in the Mission Valley, we wouldn't have more growth on the res. That's not what's gonna happen. We're gonna have growth, and we're gonna have to move forward as good neighbors to make that growth be a beneficial thing for all of us. So that's just how I feel.
So with that though, I mean, I hope you consider it. So we need to have an easement to cross that bridge to get that growth, if that's the way you want to go, I mean, so that's the only reason I even bring that up, because we have 79 acres there that I hope that it builds out exactly how their plan is.
Right.
We need those services, so.
I don't know what you mean by easement across the bridge.
So to cross that water there, I'm pretty sure we need to have an agreement to cross with services with the tribe to cross the water, to get bigger pipes, to get bigger everything cross that. I could be wrong, but that's what my research has indicated, is that to cross the water with anything of larger services, we need to be able to have that granted.
So, Commissioner Isabel, so I think, just a point of clarification there, right? So one thing, we have committed to the capacity, water and sewer capacity for the gaming facility. That is all that we have committed capacity to. The city does not have a practice of committing blank check type of issues like that, right? So number one, that's all we've committed. Part of the calculations that were done with regard to that particular facility were done by HDR Engineering to make sure that we had capacity to serve this development and other types of growth that occurred on that side of the river. That obviously is not a blank check. At some point, there is possibly the need to expand that, either a well or additional sewer pipe or whatever. I think understanding your point, but I think from the administration standpoint, if that were to be the case, we would deal with it the same way as we've dealt with every other situation like that, where we go to the property owners where there's a need for an easement, and they either have to provide it as part of their development, or we negotiate it at the time that it's needed. So for instance, we're only, in this particular case, we're only committing to X amount of capacity on the water and the sewer for the gaming establishment. If there's, tell me Janet, if there's another 30 or 27 RV sites that comes back, and we run a calculation and we say, hey, in order to do that, we're gonna need to expand the pipe across the river, then that's gonna be an issue that the developer, in this case S&K Gaming or CSKT, is gonna have to work with the city and provide that easement for us to expand that utility. That's how we normally do it, is we make it either a requirement of new service, or we negotiate it at the time that we need it. So for instance, we just annexed a piece of property from Mr. Allen a couple of months ago. And one of the things that we discovered as part of that annexation is that the sewer line went through the middle of his property. I'm pretty sure this is the one I'm remembering.
Yep.
And so what we did is we negotiated that, hey, if you want sewer service, you're gonna give us an easement on this, and we're gonna relocate it and get it so you can put a house there, but in the new location, you have to give us an easement for. So that's typically how we negotiate through those things. Thank you, Chairman, Commissioner Isbell.
And I kind of have a question about that with some language that's in the resolution. It's the second paragraph that begins with whereas, and it talks about further future plan developments on the property proposed recreational RV park, a business center, and a residential area that would require separate or amended service agreement at the time the future plan development is implemented. Is that what you're kind of referring to there?
Exactly.
And if so, if we're going to do that for each phase, I guess, could we get that more clear with something like all of which would require an amended service plan? Because right now it seemed to me that it was only referring to the residential area that would trigger that, I guess.
All right, well, let me take a look at that real quick.
Maybe I'm misreading it though too, but I did want to ask.
So Jake, are you thinking like for each phase, we would get, well, maybe not us, but somebody would get an estimate of what was gonna be required, and we would negotiate the easements on each phase?
Because it's sort of implied, but it wasn't exactly clear if it was across the board or only residential.
Can you point me there again, Commissioner Hall?
Yes, it's gonna be page 21 on the PDF, and it is the second paragraph that begins whereas and talks about the proposed development and the future.
Oh, further future plan developments on the property, blah, 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 okay, would require a separate or amended service agreement at the time the future plan development is implemented. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, it says that only in like For point 3, the residential area, it sounds like it would only apply for the residential area, not the previous 2 proposed changes as well. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. So we wrote it to apply to all 3. But if you have better language for that, that's certainly the prerogative of the city commission.
Okay.
Did you have a proposal?
Yeah, I was just thinking a residential area, comma, and then all of which would require a separate or amended service agreement.
Okay.
Just so it's clear that it applies to all of them.
Okay.
Jake, I'm always so thankful that you read things so carefully.
It's a curse. Too many philosophy classes and stuff in college.
Yeah, it's a blessing to me.
Yeah.
So.
We got anything else, Commissioner? Questions or concerns?
Well, I did kind of have a procedural question on, like, if we were to create a SID for that area, would that result in a separate PILT agreement, or would that be like an addendum to the initial PILT agreement that would be negotiated? I was just curious how that would work.
I would, again, Mr. Mickey's on, so he might have a comment to that effect, but I would think probably the best way to do that would be a separate agreement. So because the SID is gonna have a specific time frame, it's gonna basically be alive for a certain duration of time. And I think trying to connect that to the PILT agreement, which is gonna have its own durations, typically renewed on a ever so like 5-year basis or what. And SIDs usually are like a 15-year agreement, so I think it could get kind of clunky.
Yeah.
So I would say it's probably a separate SID type of PILT agreement.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't assuming or anything, so, thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I really like this partnership and the great work that the city and the tribe have put into this effort, and I just don't think we should put any other restrictions or other obligations. I think we've done a lot of great work over the last couple of years moving forward with this. I like the idea of having the Kootenai being a family-friendly destination. I look forward to seeing families coming out of there and people coming out of conferences. You know, you see a lot of people streaming out of there, and it's a lot of good business for downtown, having people wandering around, looking for an ice cream cone at night, doing some shopping. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the concerns for the environment. They're not wanting to add on sewage lagoons, another well. This is a win-win for everybody.
Anybody else up here?
I agree with Brody, for sure. I do have a quick question for somebody from CSKT or SMK regarding the phases of construction. There was an amendment of phases on page 46 in our packet to move the development of the gaming center to phase 1 instead of phase 6. Is that still the current plan?
Yes.
So that'll be the first thing to develop, the gaming center, right? And then just to be clear, your plan is to move all the gaming out of Quashnet as soon as that's completed up to the casino.
Our plan is to move, if anything, there's a small non-smoking section over in the corner that has like 6, 7 games in it. We might keep that in there. It really would depend on the business. But that strip area that has all the games in it would be restaurants and convention space. We'll of course make a plan of what to do with it, but it won't be.
Thank you so much, appreciate that clarification.
Anybody else?
Are you looking?
About the only one left? You're good? Okay, so at this time, I'm gonna open it up to public comment. We are gonna do a 3-minute clock in force. This is verbal testimony. It's like a letter to the editor, right? So there's really no questions to be answered, things like that. If you have questions and things, it sounded like Ms. Campbell was more than willing to discuss some of those with you later, or you're more than willing to reach out to your commissioner, right? So it's just more or less a verbal letter to the editor. I need you to stand up there, state your name, address, ward number. Also, there is a sign-in sheet that if you want to go on record without standing at the lectern and speaking, you're more than willing to sign in on that sign-in sheet. It kind of breaks it down whether you're in favor or opposed to this, if you want to go on record. The last thing is that I need your thoughts to be more powerful than your emotions, right? We're here, we try to base all of our decisions on facts and findings, right? So if we can kind of leave the emotion out of it, no personal attacks, no anything like that. Like I said, people that are in the overflow will probably end up forming a line or whatever. Everybody can have their turn, have their say. But you are going to be held to 3 minutes. Okay? As you step up, please state your name, address, and ward number.
Thank you, council members. Mayor, my name is David Passieri, 344 St. Mary's Drive in St. Ignatius. And let's be clear, the most accurate word I heard tonight is negotiation. And this is a negotiation. And let's be clear, this has nothing to do with S&K Gaming. This is the CSKT corporation acting upon its own merits to have this land annexed. We've heard from Ms. Campbell tonight that this land, 10 acres approximately, will be leased to the S&K Gaming. We've heard that the CSKT is interested in having good relations. I don't disagree. I think that would be fantastic. We have an eye on environment and saving and being good to the environment. And that's a beautiful piece of land. To even build upon it is really sort of maybe a crime. But the density that's being imposed with the idea that if it is annexed, then it can be heavy density to this land. Okay. We hear that environment's important, but we saw the marina getting put together a couple of years back. And those septic systems are probably clearly a problem for the lake, but that heavy density went in. We have we were reported earlier by Mr. Meese that in 1970 a case existed where a business was annexed in through some sort of litigation. This is federal trust land. This is not fee simple land. So this case probably needs a legal opinion to even have any merit whatsoever as a sort of threat. I would like to also say that this is your chance to have a great template. There's approximately 120 acres along the river, just further west along Irvine Flats Road, which might serve to be sort of the next round, I don't know, but this template that you're going to create today will serve as precedence for the future. So I would implore you to have a legal opinion and get this right. I would also just like to say that I don't believe this is genuine and authentic, this FONSI, this Environmental Protection Act, NEPA, through a FONSI, which is a finding of no significant findings, something like this, or impact. It's not complete, so you have an incomplete economic impact study, in my opinion. You have 3 casinos really at play here, potentially, because we've heard even tonight that there will still be some gaming potentially, and that's, you can probably take that to the bank. I just would like to just say that 10 acres is what you have in front of you, and probably that should be pulled out as a condition into fee simple and approved.
Yeah.
Bert Price, 328 Mission View Drive, Polson. I have a couple points here. Jake, you made an excellent one on the point of every single development phase needs to have its own approval. Right? Also, the SID. I had a recent experience here. I have 2.5 acres, 2.3 acres, and I was gonna have to pay over $500,000 per the city just for that 2.5 or 2.3 acres to do the improvements on it. So my question is, on the existing potential SID, you know, how much is that gonna be on the 10 acres? And then as well on the PILT, they paid the tribe has paid money, so I think that needs to be put forth, because I've talked to several police officers and fire department people. They're telling me the cost that they're gonna have to incur to just support that area, not even counting the development, you know, the housing development is pretty substantial. So I think the numbers need to be determined, and where are the numbers for the infrastructure that the city's gonna have to pay for just for the 10 acres, much less additional housing that may come down later in line. Where are the numbers on that, right? I just heard that the property's a lease. What's the term of the lease? If the property is gonna be leased, what is that term? And what are the terms of that lease? Could it be vacated or terminated under some violation of some sort? And what are the terms of the lease? Have any of the commissioners seen the terms of that lease? Is a question. The impact, I have to agree with the other gentleman, I don't know if he's still here. The impact report, I've been personally stuck on the 93 over an hour to get in town during the summertime. And also lined up from all the way going north on the 93, right? And that's just regular traffic during the summertime. If we don't get extra lanes, or there's something that's not addressed about capacity, I mean, I just, even though some of it's still gonna be on the north, as you indicated, not getting into the casino, and that's a valid point. However, there's still gonna be a lot more traffic coming in and out, all right? So that has to be addressed, the capacity. And I don't think that, I didn't hear tonight that there's gonna be either extra lanes. This has gone to the Montana Department of Transportation, but, you know, where are we on that? And lastly.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lastly, that's it.
Hello, I'm Tracy Sharp. I live on Rocky Point Road, and I was here a little over a year ago and asked about the traffic concerns, and I have to give you all tremendous credit because you tabled your efforts at that time in order to look into that and dig further into what was going on with traffic, and we got Representative Rexton and all of you together, I think within 10 days of that meeting, to start reviewing the traffic. Am I correct about that? You did it right away, and I really appreciate that because that was why I stood up in the first place. I'm on Rocky Point Road, so I have that incredibly dangerous corner, even as it is today, in order to get here, and I know Bill Barron has the same issue. And what concerns me is that the traffic impact study doesn't address Rocky Point Road. And I would urge you to please take a look at that, because it's already a horrifically dangerous corner. The turn lanes that you put in there, my understanding is that Mr. Isabel said that the traffic study's pretty good on there. But this is a broader issue, because as soon as you go south into town, your choke point is the bridge, and what comes right after the bridge, not one, but 2 stoplights within the span of 1 block. So the city may want to look at maybe figuring a way that you don't have that sort of delay and re-engineer something in the city. I don't know what the answer is to that, but leading into that stoplight, like the gentleman said, on normal summer traffic here, I've seen the traffic backed up across the bridge, past UPS, past where the casino is going to be, and up over the hill. We also talked about having traffic above there slowed down to a more reasonable speed, so that when they come over that hump, people that are trying to frogger their way into traffic from Rocky Point Road, like me, my family, my loved ones, would have, at least not have traffic coming over that hill as fast as it is. So I'm a little discouraged that the traffic impact study didn't take a look at that, especially after you did such a good job with your cooperative efforts there. And I would like you to please to maybe consider what you can do about that, even though I know This is not an action thing. We've all lost friends on 93. I've lived here since the 60s, and we've lost a lot of friends on 93. It's a very dangerous road. Right there out now with the casino, we want to make sure we don't make it even worse. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ron Lodestrand, 407 2nd Street West. I just had a curiosity about what the potential is and how much our new sewer system is going to be able to handle. Is it designed for the amount of outflow that's going to come from all this being developed? Is it capable of doing that? Has anybody looked at that part of it? That's all I want to ask, actually.
Yeah, so maybe you can talk with your commissioner after the fact, and they can kind of run you through some of that. Perfect.
Jerry Refner, Acre B Drive, just off of 35 about a mile down from 93. Highway traffic. 35 is a mess right now. It's only going to get worse. Is there any portion of this traffic study that's done for 35? 35 is getting hammered. I've talked to people that live out of Paradise past the turn. He literally has to take a right, go down to the Christian Academy, and make another right to get out on 35. That's how bad the traffic is. It's nothing but big rigs, nothing but a major accident waiting to happen in the lake. 2, I'm going to go with EMS. I have a background in this. I know how it works. You have ALS, Advanced Life Support. You have BLS, Basic Life Support, ambulances. There's not that many. It's a private company. They're based in Polson and Ronan. If the Polson ALS is dispatched, let's say to Family Point, he's out of service. The next one comes from Ronan. Let's say someone in Jetty Meadows needs ALS. July, August, September. How's that ambulance going to get through? You have a golden hour. You make the call, you have an hour. That's when people die, after the hour. If you cannot get support out to them, you're putting the public at risk. You cannot get medical supervision out to them. That is on you. The volunteers do not do it. They're all, maybe they have EMT experience. That's about all they have. This is a major concern. So if you're going to have somebody to down, let's say in Jetty Meadows, you're going to have to call in 2 Bear to come get them, to transport them to the hospital, and not come have to do the traffic. I haven't even heard that talked about here. That is a major problem, and I've dealt with it, and I live.
Thanks for your concern.
I have Jim Sisler, Bridgewater Drive. My wife and I drove over 3 million miles together on the road trucking. We know where the dangerous bridges are. This bridge right here is one, it's a concern. I believe I tried to get a weight rating on this bridge, didn't give it to me. Most of the bridges around this country in Canada, they'll tell you, only this much weight are gonna go over that bridge. Well, you cut off this bridge, it's gonna have an impact on Canada and Mexico. It's a big problem if this bridge fails. I see trucks bigger than I've ever seen driving across bridges. I I think it was 36 wheels or 38 wheels. And they're carrying tonnage like you wouldn't believe. Well, I tell you what, I would love to have you get the report of the Transportation Department and make them own that bridge, that it won't fail, because you're gonna have a real problem. You're gonna be on the news all over the world if that bridge fails.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hello, thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is Bill Barron. I have a business and building in town at 219 Main Street, and I have property on Rocky Point Road. And I have not been able to study the traffic report in depth, but from what I've seen, they've left, as was stated, Rocky Point out of the equation, and that, you can't do that. I mean, right now, there's been times I've waited over 20 minutes to get onto the road, and there'll be 15 or 20 people behind me on Rocky Point. And the only reason I got on the road is because traffic is backed up, sitting there already on Highway 93, lets me in. They're courteous and they let me in. I love the idea that Kootenai is going to go back to what it was. We used to frequent it all the time. We still do. We do rock the dock and we eat at the restaurant, but it's not as an enjoyable experience as it was before. And to have that happen, I think, would be really a beneficial thing. But to me, the number one issue is the traffic, and I don't think that he takes care of it. And this is, the study, it looks like you're dealing with the casino. Well, as it's developed and the phases go out, and more is done, it's gonna be more and more traffic, and I don't think the alignment that's there now is appropriate. I mean, if it comes out on Irving Flat, realign Irving Flat so it comes across with Rocky Point and put a traffic control device there if you have to, because it's going to be a huge problem. I've seen it already. I mean, I worked the county for 10 years and I did a lot of patrol on that road and on Rocky Point 93, and it's been a problem for a long time. It's just going to get worse. I'm a property rights guy, and I think if somebody owns property, they have a right to develop it and do it to their benefit. But the harmful impacts have to be dealt with. And if Rocky Point traffic isn't brought into this equation and part of the equation, it's going to be a problem. And it needs to be done. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I live off of, if you drive off of Highway 35. I'm going to tag along to the traffic comments that have been stated. Construction at the new casino. If the casino is allowed to start before the road is fixed, all those trucks are going to be turning and stopping traffic, and you're only going to make it worse. So you need to consider putting in whatever improvements are before anything's approved.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. 28423, Early Dawn Drive. I would just like to say ditto. I have concerns that the casino would get built, we'd have more traffic, and it's already a hazardous area. I think that needs to be done. The other thing I was wondering about, and I know, no questions, but whatever, the SID that might be imposed or negotiated, whatever. So there is a way to ensure that the fees are paid, and I was wondering, what if it wasn't, then what? Okay, thank you.
So let's be clear what a SID, what that stands for, because that's a concern to me. We throw these acronyms out. So SID is Special Improvement District, right? Everybody gets that?
Thanks, Carol.
Yep.
Any other public comment?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Larry Ashcraft, 503 Bayview Drive, Polson, or 2. It just seems to me, listening to all this, that there seems to be a lot of questions that haven't been answered. And it's questions that, well, down the road we'll get answers for them. And so tonight, you're asking for a vote on something that there are just too many questions that are arising that we don't have answers at. We do not know what the DOT is going to say. We don't know what the situation with the bridge is. You know, someone said that we can really trust in these pilts. We saw what happened with the dam, and the pilt was falling apart. And something that hasn't been brought up is every casino brings more human trafficking, more drugs. We also have a huge problem as it is, and this, my way of thinking, this can only bring more drugs to Polson, which we don't need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Robertson, 705 Fifth Avenue Southwest in Ronan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and fellow council members, for this meeting on this very important topic once again. Tonight we've been hearing a lot being presented about community effort and looking out after community. With that is going to come, if we really are concerned about community effort and community outreach, morals is going to come into play. Now I bring that up because last year, one of the council members stated, and I quote, "This is not what we're trying to do with this council meeting. This is not a moral judgment on casinos or gambling. I have my own personal opinions about casinos. That's not what this is. We're trying to determine what is in the best interest of the community. And as I presented last year, a community is the last thing that this community needs. Research shows, federally funded research shows, casinos in fact bring in the kind of problems as the gentleman just said. Prostitution, and that's already here. I've spoken with police officers. I spoke with the former chief of police here in Polson, and they know that stuff is going on after Kootenai. What is a bigger casino going to do but bring in bigger problems? A study in 2019 by David Patterson Silverwolf, in discussing how the tribal casinos receive a lot of attention, what doesn't receive as much attention is the higher incidence of problem gambling among Native Americans compared to the rest of the population. Washington University Professor David Patterson Silverwolf has studied how the Native American population has a higher rate of gambling addictions than the average rate in the general population. Estimates put the problem gambling rate among Native Americans at 2.3%, more than double the rate among all adults. And where there is gambling abuse, there are other problems. This is a problem waiting to happen. Now, I invoke the moral plea because at every meeting that you all are assembled, you invoke the name of God in your Pledge of Allegiance. But then you want to exclude morals from this chamber. I find that appalling. That you would invoke the name of God and then ignore moral responsibility that council has to the safety and protection of the community. On your website, you're all labeled as public servants. You serve the public. Romans 13 has laid out what government's responsibility is. You're there to protect us. get down to what your sole obligation is. Protect us. This casino deal is a deal with the devil. You're not gonna get anything else from it. Thank you.
Jason Bob Howder, excuse me, I live at 94 Eagle Drive, and Council, or Commissioner Salish is my member on the council or commission. I want to thank him for his motion tonight, and I want to say that I'm very disappointed that it couldn't even get a second.
Here, here.
You're a deliberative body. To not have a second and deliberate a motion made in earnest, and it was to approve the action, is, I say, very disappointing. The other thing that's very disappointing to me tonight is the comments from your city manager, which was, if the bridge isn't safe, then the Department of Transportation should say something about it or close it. Why not ask the Department of Transportation for some findings on that bridge? You have enough questions tonight that you should seek an answer to that question before you go forward. I urge you to do that on behalf of all of your constituents. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Good evening. My name is Sheila Matt, and I'm the general manager of Kootenai. And I want you guys to know that, first of all, we hear everything you guys are saying as a community. We have the same problems, we have the same issues. If you guys think that I'm not dealing with the drug issue or anything else that comes into the resort, you guys are sadly mistaken. We have family members who are affected by drugs and alcohol and all of that. And yes, you bet, we are trying to fix these issues. And so if you think that the tribe is turning a blind eye to all that, then you guys are sadly mistaken. We are working very hard at this. I've worked with Bill Barron a lot in some other issues, and so we understand when Two Teeth lives out at Rocky Point. He's had to get across that road. He understands these issues too. I just want you guys to know that we really are trying to be good partners with you guys. If you guys would let us come to the table and work with you, that is exactly what we're trying to do. With that, thank you very much.
My name is Jennifer Finley. I live at 612 First Street West. I'm a citizen here of Polson, a member of CSKT. And speaking of morals, I was raised with morals, which means being polite to people, which means being courteous, which means being civil, and which means oftentimes being the bigger person in the face of racism, because I was raised right. So with that being said, I support the annexation of this casino because it would bring in business to Polson. It would benefit the entire community. And in 2006, when the Montana state government failed to negotiate a successful compact with CSKT, 20 casinos approximately were closed down. And I do not think crime took a nosedive. So I think with this casino, I don't think it's going to cause a spike in crime, like some people think it will. I respectfully advocate for the passing of this annexation with civility and kindness and dignity. Thank you.
Any other public comment? No hands raised there? No? Can't really see it.
Yeah, let me check this real quick, Mr. Mayor. No hands raised.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else for public comment? Okay. We are going to take, oh yeah?
I'm not a resident of Polson, and since somebody else from
Oh.
Rowan
I'm sorry, we speak one time here,
Okay.
and you already spoke.
I already spoke, okay,
Earlier.
but I just thought,
Right,
well,
no. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Tracy.
So we're about to take a vote.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah?
Could I clarify just a couple of comments for the commission?
Sure.
Just 'cause I just want to make sure you operate on good information, and I just want to make sure that we have that information
Sure.
before you cast the vote. 'Cause there's just a couple of comments that were factually incorrect, and I just want to clarify those. So first off, I guess towards the point, there was a point about that the city does not or may not have adequate sewer system capacity for the new development. Again, all that we have pledged capacity to is the gaming facility. Any subsequent development on this piece of property, there would have to be a new request for additional capacity to be served through the amended agreement or the new agreement. There was also a comment about EMS service, and I want to clarify that comment. So it is true that we have one ambulance service, and that ambulance service stations in both Polson and Ronan. They typically have 3. But just to be clear for those that are here and for others in the community that might be listening, outside of the ambulance service, both our current fire chief and our current assistant fire chief are paramedics. We also, every member of the department except one is a nationally registered EMT, and we have additional paramedics inside the volunteer corps. So what happens when, often when the ambulance is called, and often when the ambulance cannot immediately respond, is your fire department, Polson City Volunteer Fire Department, QRU. What the heck does it stand for? I was wrong here. But our QRU makes that response, typically with at least one paramedic, and then other volunteer EMTs to assist. And we do that 24/7. So there is always a possibility that whether it's a fire truck or an ambulance, that there can be traffic issues. But I want to be very clear that there are